If you could save a stranger's life by making a choice that wasn't yours to make, a choice your family would never forgive you for, would you make it anyway? Because I did. And I'm still not sure if I was brave or just selfish. My father's name was Gerald. Jerry to everyone who loved him. He was 61 years old, and he was the kind of man who fixed things. Leaky faucets, broken bicycles, the silences at dinner that nobody else knew how to fill. He had big hands and a quiet voice, and he smelled like cedar and motor oil in a way that I still can't smell without my chest tightening. He collapsed on a Tuesday. Just a Tuesday. I remember because I had a dentist appointment that morning and I was annoyed about it. That's the thing about the day your life splits in two. It starts out ordinary. It starts out with you being annoyed about something small. My mom called me at 11:42 in the morning. I remember the time because I was still in the parking lot of the dentist's office, sitting in my car eating a granola bar because they'd told me not to eat beforehand. She said, "Your father fell." That was how she put it. Your father fell. He'd had a massive hemorrhagic stroke. By the time I got to the hospital, he was on a ventilator. The doctors used words like catastrophic and irreversible and no meaningful brain activity. They said it gently, the way people do when they've said it 100 times and learned that gentle doesn't actually make it easier, it just makes it quieter. He hadn't made a formal will, not a real one. He'd talked about doing it for years, the way people talk about organizing the garage or switching to a better phone plan. He talked about it, and then he didn't do it. So there was nothing in writing, no legal documentation about what he wanted. Just our memory of a man and the different things we'd each heard him say at different moments in different years. My mother was his next of kin. She was the decision maker. That's the law, and honestly, that's how it should be. I know that. I knew that then. They'd been married for 37 years. She had every right. And my mother said no. She said no to organ donation, not out of cruelty, not out of ignorance. She said it through tears, clutching a rosary she'd carried in her purse since 1987 because she could not bear the thought of them taking pieces of him. She said she wanted him whole. She said, "He is still my husband and I want him whole." I understood that. Part of me understood that completely. But 3 floors up in the same hospital, there was a man named David. I didn't know his name then. I found out much later. He was 44 years old, and he had been waiting for a heart transplant for 14 months. A transplant coordinator, not his, not assigned to our case, just a woman I'd met briefly in a hallway. A woman who said too much because she was tired and it had been a long shift. She told me that there was a patient in critical condition upstairs. She didn't give me his name. She didn't give me details. But she said the window was closing. She said those words. The window is closing. And I knew my father's blood type. I knew it because I am the same. I've known since I was 16 and donated for the first time at a school drive, and my dad made such a big deal about it, brought me flowers afterward like I'd done something heroic. O positive, both of us. I sat in the family consultation room for 2 hours while my mother signed paperwork down the hall. I thought about my father's hands. I thought about how he used to say that the worst thing a person could do was waste what they were given. I thought about whether that applied to a heart still beating inside a man who would never wake up. I want to be careful about how I say this next part. I did not forge anything. I did not lie to a doctor or a nurse or anyone in an official capacity. What I did was, I found the transplant coordinator again, the tired one, and I told her that my mother had reconsidered, that our family wanted to speak with someone about donation, that things had shifted. They hadn't shifted. My mother hadn't reconsidered. I had not asked her. I had made a decision about that on purpose, the not asking, because I knew her answer, and I had decided that her answer was wrong. The coordinator brought someone from the donation team, a man, kind and careful, who sat with me alone in that room. He asked about next of kin. He asked about consent. And I told him that my mother was grieving and overwhelmed and that she had asked me to handle this part. I told him she had verbally indicated she'd changed her mind and that she needed space right now. Every sentence I said was constructed to be technically deniable. I knew what I was doing. I wasn't panicked or confused, I was deliberate. That's the part I can't dress up. What followed happened fast, faster than I expected. And then it was done, and my father's heart was on its way to the 4th floor, and I was sitting in a bathroom stall with my forehead against the door, shaking. My mother found out 4 hours later. She didn't scream. That's what I would have expected, that she would scream. Instead, she went completely quiet. She looked at me and she said, "You didn't ask me." Just that. "You didn't ask me." I said, "He would have wanted this." She said, "You don't get to decide that." And she walked out of the room, and she didn't speak to me for 7 weeks. We're okay now. Mostly. We have dinner on Sundays and we talk about normal things, and sometimes she laughs and it almost feels like before. But there are moments where she looks at me and I can see it, just behind her eyes. The thing she can't unsay and can't unthink. That her daughter chose a stranger over her. That I took something from her when she was already losing everything. The man who received my father's heart, David, I found out his name almost a year later through the donor family registry. He's alive. He has 2 kids, a daughter who is 8 and a son who is 5. He sent a letter. He said he didn't know how to thank the family. He said he prays for us. I never showed my mother the letter. I told myself it would hurt her. Maybe that's true. But I think the other thing that's true, the thing I sit with at night, is that I didn't show her because it would mean I was right. And somehow, even now, I don't want to be right. I just want my dad back, and I want my mother to look at me the way she used to, and neither of those things is available to me anymore. David's daughter is 8 years old, and she still has her father. My mother signed no form that said yes. I told a kind, tired woman something that wasn't true. I decided, alone in a fluorescent room, that I knew better than the person who had the right to decide. And a man is alive because of it. I don't know what to do with that. I've been carrying it for 3 years now, and I still don't know what to do with it. Some nights it feels like grace. Some nights it feels like the worst thing I've ever done. Most nights it feels like both at the same time, layered together so completely that I can't separate them anymore, can't find where one ends and the other begins. I don't know if I would do it again. I've asked myself that question more times than I can count, and the answer changes depending on the day, depending on whether I've just gotten off the phone with my mom or whether I've been thinking about those 2 kids who still have their father. I made a choice that wasn't mine to make, and a man is alive, and my mother and I will never be exactly what we were. All 3 of those things are true at the same time, and none of them cancels out the others. So I'll ask you what I can't stop asking myself. What would you have done?